Hello everyone and welcome to this eTwinning webinar. My name is Marta and I'll be your host for today. This is the last webinar before we break for the summer, so it's a really important appointment because then we will see each other again in September. Just a practical information before we start. The webinar is recorded and the recording might be used for dissemination purposes. And if you have questions, comments, thoughts, please feel free to share them in the chat, and we will also have a Q&A session at the end to address all of them. But without further ado, let's move to the focus for today, which is experiential learning and multidisciplinary teams to prevent early school leaving. And I'm delighted to present our speakers today. So we have here with us Anka Dudau, trainer of trainers and president of EduPlus Association, Nelson Amaral Fumero, psychologist in the SOS Children Villages Tenerife, and Monica Alba, psychologist in the same organization. Welcome, thank you very much for joining us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, we're happy, first of all, to say we're happy to be here and we're happy to share our ideas and experiences with you. I am Anka and I will present you a bit about some of the techniques that we do, some of the active learning methodologies that we teach to teachers in order to prevent early school leaving and other issues. So as said, I'm the president of EduPlus Association, and we are an NGO, a non-profit organization that we aim at improving our society, and we do this in a transversal way, through education, through culture, through ecology, and citizen participation. So this is our main goal. We strive for a better world. And why are we located in Tenerife? Many people probably have heard of Tenerife and Canary Islands as beautiful beaches, nice nature, but there's also another reality besides this, and that is that almost a third of the people are at risk of poverty or social exclusion. For example, this is a study from 2020. Also, almost a quarter are unemployed, and if we talk about youth under 25 years old, more than half are unemployed in 2022. So this is a reality, but it's also it's an opportunity for many organizations and schools to search for different approaches and different methods in order to tackle the issues that the local people here face. So that's why we created a consortium of different local organizations where we try to promote active teaching methodologies, innovative tools, different type of approaches in working with prevention of early school leaving, bullying, etc. Right? And that's why we also invited our local partners from SOS Children Village to be part of this presentation, to give a bit more deep look into how they work with prevention of early school leaving. So in order to start, I wanted to ask you a question. If you could please write in the chat your answers. How would the school system look like for you when we would have zero early school leaving? So I would like you to imagine and write in the chat the answer to this question, like how would you imagine the world and the education system if there would be no early school leaving? You can write in the chat your answers. Trying to imagine about how the world would be like. It's an invitation to think and try to imagine how things would be like and what changes would be in place in order to not to have this challenge that we're now talking about, which is early school leaving. Yeah.
Do you want me to read the input in the chat?
We can see the answers.
Okay, great. Perfect.
So someone wrote dream paradise. Of course, in the dream, there would be no early school leaving. Anyone else wants to answer? Yeah. For us, it's basically a different type of education, a different type of approach in education, more fair world. Someone is writing. Um, so I will go through with some of the examples for us that what we work in the education system, what we strive for is promoting collaborative learning, experiential learning, creating experience for the students so that they can also feel and explore this. Real life examples, using real life examples, using outdoor and environmental education, game-based learning. So different type of active learning methodologies we believe that allow students to be more engaged and motivated and understand the purpose of school. No, exactly. Some teachers are sharing in the chat practical learning, outside teaching. Natalia is sharing that schools would be wonderful places for students and for teachers. Antonio is sharing that step by step we will be there. Exactly. No, so this is also the approach that we are promoting. And through all the different types of methodologies that we use, we are trying to have a multidisciplinary approach and in all kinds of subjects to teach values and soft skills. No, so to teach respect, to teach tolerance, empathy, diversity, and so on. No, in the pictures you can see some of the examples of the experiential learning activities that we do. For example, in order to promote the idea of inclusion and understanding of persons with special needs. We put the participants in a wheelchair so they can feel how it is, and we do a lot of workshops on how to work with our emotions. And we think that this is really, really important in working with the schools. No, so like someone from another chat, someone in the chat is sharing that schools would be inclusive and safe. No, exactly. No, so our approach is having a positive approach and trying to strive towards this goal of how we imagine, and not seeing, for example, early school living as a challenge, but focusing also on where we want to go. No? So we have seen in our training courses that through outdoor and environmental education, we can boost motivation and engagement with the participants. It allows us to really experience and connect with all the senses, to really get in touch with nature, with all the senses, and have an emotional connection with the nature and with the peers. It's something therapeutic when we touch our hands with the soil or with the plants, and we have seen that the human connections are much stronger when we teach in nature. um, we also we teach engaging methods in STEM. As we all know, scientific subjects are one of the subjects where there's where there's more underachievement, are the subjects that can demotivate students to remain in school. So we really believe it's really important to have another look on teaching this kind of subjects in a more practical and in more engaging ways. We teach the inquiry-based learning methodology, which is a methodology where students put themselves the questions. So it's really important to create their curiosity, to inspire them to be curious and to ask the questions, and they themselves are active actors in finding the results, no, using the scientific methods, no. And we've seen that through this type of methodologies being more practical and more inclusive, it also helps to close the gap in science between students from different kind of backgrounds, students who are maybe have more experience with scientific subjects or are better at them, and students who are not as motivated, because it's a lot about working in group, it's a lot about doing practical activities. Another methodology that we use is the garden-based learning. For example, we have done, especially now with COVID, when we couldn't do many face-to-face activities indoors, so we created a intergenerational permaculture garden in Punta del Galgo, a rural area, where we work as an NGO. We work with adults in the school garden. We go in the afternoons, so in this case, the seniors go in the afternoon, take care of the garden, and the children go in the morning, where SOS Children Village is also doing activities with the children in the morning, especially with the disadvantaged children. No? And yeah, our experience has been that, again, the same as with outdoor education, with garden-based learning, there is a therapeutic experience that helps people in their own personal life. No? We also use game-based methodology and gamification in terms of prevention and in terms of increasing motivation and engagement of students. For example, we had this project on traditional sports and games that we went to the local school with the seniors. The seniors will teach the students the traditional sports and games, and we also practice this methodology. Like basically the gamification principles and the game-based principles can be applied to any kind of content, no? Like we use it in treasure hunts, culture topics, environmental topics, and can be adjusted to any subject as long as we use the methodology of making it attractive by earning points or earning with each challenge, like getting the people motivated to do to reach an end goal. No? So if I would be to summarize our approach in all the training courses that we're doing for teachers, first of all would be that we really think that it's important to connect to ourselves as teachers, to connect with our body and to connect with our emotions, to connect with our inner children, and to focus that what we have in common with everyone is that we're human. And from this place, we have had teachers reporting to us that their relationship with the children, with the youth, changes. No, so first of all, we think it's really important that the teachers, we first do this with ourselves and then teach this to the students. No, the second important thing that we try to promote in our courses is the part of empathy. And of course, for empathy, it's possible only when we really know or we are able to understand the other person's needs and challenges. And in order to know it, we need to have a real interest. No? So in this part, what we try to promote is to forget a bit, for example, in terms of early school living, we all have percentages of which is the percentage of early school living in European level, national level. From national level, they put pressure on regional level. From regional level, they put pressure on the schools. The director puts pressure on the teachers in order to reduce these numbers of early school living. And in the end, we need to remember that students and children and youth, they're not just numbers. No, so to understand each case, and so in our courses, we do a lot of exercises on how to connect at this human level. No. In order to understand better our students. In the third approach is a holistic approach. We've seen that it works a lot when we have a transversal and cross-disciplinary approach, which means that we don't do what I mentioned before only in the soft skills courses, but we use any kind of topic like science or outdoor or culture. Whatever the topic we teach, we include such elements, no? And we diversify the methods, no? So talking about how the world would be like in the future in order to don't have such problems, from our point of view, would be to have much more cross-disciplinary approach where all these things are taught in all subjects. Yeah? Another thing that we want to transmit with our courses to the teachers is that we really believe that teachers are the heroes, that you are the people who can change the world basically by changing the lives of the children and of the youth. And even though there are challenges in times, we think that we need to remember that we're just planting the seeds that will slowly grow. No? So through our courses, we also try to empower the teachers to see themselves as a confidence builder of the students, rather than a teacher of chemistry or of languages and so on, not to have a broader perspective of the impact that you have on the lives of the students. No? So with all this, we really strive for improving the system, the same as was written in the chat, step by step, having patience and remembering that together we are stronger. No? So that's why we really think it's important to have such networks, to understand that we all strive for the same objective and we are not alone in this. No? So yeah, this was my brief presentation about the type of methodologies that we use in order to focus on prevention. We mainly focus on prevention and on promoting different type of methodologies that that we believe would improve the educational system. So now I will give the floor to my colleagues from SOS Children Village, which is one of the local organizations that we collaborate frequently with in our staff mobility courses for teachers from Europe who come to visit us here in Tenerife. So here you have the contacts in case you want to get in touch with us. We will also publish them in the chat. And I will give the floor to one moment.
Okay, perfect. We can see the presentation.
Okay. Yeah. So, in order to understand the problem that we have with the early school leaving, we just want to share with you some percentage of different years in Canary Islands and also in Spain. As you see, the percentage is decreased in some years. For example, if we see 2018, the percentage is 20.9, and also in Spain it's in a high number, but also in Canary Island is really high. So it's a problem that Anka told us before for us here in Tenerife, in Canary Islands. So now we have to explain why we are here. We are SOS Children Village. Children all over the world are growing without care or guidance that we need to growing up well. So SOS Children Village is there working with them, with the children, with young people, and also with families. We need to keep families together, provide alternative care when we need it, and support also young people on their path to take their independence. Nelson and me are working here in Tenerife, in the village of Tenerife, with children that need an alternative care to growing up. So why we need a early school living program here? Just because children who are living here have lived neglect or abandoned or violent situation in their family context, and these experiences get an impact in their way of learning and also in their emotional development. Also at the beginning, when they arrive here to the village, most of them have left their schools. So we need to work with that. Also, we needed a bridge between the school community and our NGO and also the children. So we try to build a project to get close these different communities, the school community, the NGO, and also the children. So what is the situation we find with our children? Okay, at the teenage period, the number of school expulsion increase. So we have to focus on that. Also, they show an appropriate behavior or maybe conflicts with adults and also with young people. So this problem is also a problem for us. Also, they have an educational underachievement, lack of motivation, and also the family's environment does not provide an adequate role model. So that's the reason they prefer to leave the school and also to try other paths to take their independence.
Okay, I'm Nelson, and now I'm going to explain how works our program. First, I have to say this program is based on three phases, which are prevention, expulsion, and re-entry. Yes, in prevention stage, this service is based on the profiles and individual characteristics of children. If the child doesn't present indicator of a possible problem at a school level, they will be in the program, but in a general way, where they take part of the activities and workshops. On the contrary, those children who need an intervention phase will begin an action plan, which is created through an individual evaluation, where get data in each area and by a specialist. The specialists are the psychologist, educator, speech. Speech. This is the specialist. Sorry. And support teacher is it conform the multidisciplinary team. They analyze the results, create recommendation for social workers and children, and especially working session. The strategies in prevention state are use multiplace intelligence like linguistics, math, musical, natural sciences, etc. Create study habits like oratories, place to study, materials, routines. The place of study, we looking for a good place to get more concentration, and we usually accompaniment and supervision during the study hours. Other example in school monitoring, we school monitoring like this example, each 15 days we have a meeting with the group of teachers. Also, we check in with children the classroom apps and checking the school diary all days. They use positive reinforcements, like use kindness and closeness, transmit message to help improve and grow, don't blame their mistakes, and also create spaces for expressing themselves. Especially work by multidisciplinary team and the school prevention workshop. Like can be two types: generals and specifics. In generals, we can do study techniques, conflict resolutions, social abilities, impulses control, emotional intelligence, and specific, we can say aggressiveness, sorry, my English. Stealing, affective, sexual education, addictions, and absences. Okay, sorry. Okay, in a school expulsion stage, we usually do first we know the reason for expulsion, then the direct we usually do with the child mm, we do a direct intervention with the child to reflect on reason for the expulsion. Also, we can create an activities program to do during the expulsion and preparing the child to return to school. Finally, the re-entry stage. Once the re-entry to a school is done, we do reflection and creation of an agreement contract together with the child, coordination with the school to set the goals to achieve, keep the contact with the school community to know the child's progress, start up again the prevention stage, but based in the reasons of expulsion. Okay. There is we have some programs. You can looking for more information about that, but here in Tenerife we do programs like Educando el Talento, SOS Children's Villages Values Program, Early School Living Program as well. In all programs, we take part decision forum to promote the early school living prevention at local and national levels. This is a sample of international programs. National programs, you can search, you can looking for, you can looking for this program on internet. Okay.
So we have tried to explain what are we doing, or what we work every day with children, with schools, with the educational community. As Nelson explained before, we have different stages. We have methods, activities with goals, with different goals. So we think that the key success factor for our program is, for example, we try to empower the children or young people and educational community to break this social exclusion cycle. We work in every stages, not only in expulsion states. For example, we focus a lot in the prevention one and also the reintegration, because it's really important for them to start up again with the community, with the teachers, with the other companies. Children and young people also are involved in the program. They decide with the educators and the teachers and so on the different activities they do, the times we need to get the goals established and so on. We also focus on their young people needs. We build an individual program for them just to try to get the goals. Also, we focus on the strengths, not only the difficulties or the problems they have. The strengths are really important for us. And also we use the positive discipline to get close to the children, to see with them all the part of them, to help to growing up. So this is our program.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks for the attention.
Yes, so we've been a bit quick in giving you an overview of what both EduPlus Association does in terms of prevention methodologies, as well as a view on what SOS Children Villages do more concretely regarding the early school living program that they have. We would please like to ask you to write your questions. As we try to promote active learning methodologies and in general an active approach, we thought it would be a good idea to minimize the time of our presentation and give you the possibility to ask the questions regarding the interest that you have, no? So that we can have a sort of a dialogue. So that's why we ask you to please write your questions in the chat, and we will take questions by questions. For example, one of the question is like, how do you do the transition between the two phases, the expulsion and the reintegration? How does this transition takes place in practice?
Is about time or
sí, cómo hacen la transición entre la expulsión y la integración, ¿no? Cómo lo integran.
Vale. Puedes hablar de las actividades.
Sorry, I'm looking. We can send you the examples too. We usually do looking a good place to get a reflection and creation a contract to do a good reintegration. You know, that is an agreement contract with together with the child. That is an example. Also, we coordination with a school to set the goals to achieve. The place is always or usually do in the home or in sessions with multidisciplinary team with psychology or speech therapist, and also with me or support teach. And also important thing is we start up again the prevention stage when they re-entry to a school, but based in the reason of expulsion.
So what we hear from you is that this period of re-entry takes some time. It's not from one day to another, of course, and you invest a lot of time and energy in preparing the students in order to be ready to re-entry. And
during the time of expulsion, we work together, like day by day, to prepare their reentry to school.
Okay, so during the expulsion, when the students are not in school, they're not lived by themselves, but you accompany them in trying to prepare, and when they are ready and when they are ready to commit again to sign this contract, no? So it's important that it also comes from the students, not to oblige them to get back in school, because if you oblige them, then they will leave again, no? Or they will face situations that will lead to expulsion, no? So
we keep the coordination with the school to set the goals to achieve.
Yeah, Because many
Also.
times what it's seen is that students who leave once, they have high percentage of chance of living again.
Yes.
So of course, as schools, we are as system, we are interested in getting students back in the school. But if we, I understand from you that if you put a lot of emphasis on working with the students during the expulsion in order to prepare them to, and once they re-entry, they you work again in the prevention stage, so they don't leave again. Or because of course we say early school leaving, but in reality many situations is not that the children or the youth leave the school, but that they are exposed for different situations, for because of underachievement or conflicts and so on. We hope this answered your question. Please write more questions in the chat. The next question would be, what advice can you give to the teachers in order to prevent early school leaving? No, like what things should the teacher do or should not do in class or in the schoolyard?
I think that the best advice is just to see the students, as you say, Anka, before, not for numbers, just for like a persons, that they have needs and they need to be accompanied in this process in the school. So the best advice is just listen and to see how they are, how they feel. Yeah, it's just to be accompanied on this process, because the school, maybe not for all of them, it's easy to be there, to be with the others, to be with the adults. So I think, yeah, it's just to know the students, to know the persons.
Yeah, it's a bit also what we promote in the courses for the teachers. In order to, so we try to have a different approach in the education system, that the purpose of you as teacher and giving a class, it doesn't matter if you are chemistry, maths, language, it's not only to transmit this knowledge, no? So the conventional education system is a lot in focused on transmitting the knowledge, and we know you as teacher have a big pressure on teaching all the curriculum. There's a lot to teach, there's not enough time. We think that what we can do is to strive to introduce the same as Monica said, this emotional element, no? That you are there emotionally for the students, no? That you are a point of reference, that you are accompanying them through our visits in SOS Children Village. The thing that we most learn with and the teachers noticed every time is this philosophy of accompanying the students. So it's not about that the teacher or the social worker or the psychologist, their objective is not to get a concrete result. Of course, we all want that they return to school as soon as possible and they have good results, no? But the purpose is not to get them as fast as possible to results. The students, the learners should feel that we're there to accompany them no matter what the result is, no matter if they have underachievement, no matter if they leave the school, no matter if they fail the expectations of the society. So the most important, when we come here and do the visit in SOS Children Village, what we like about their approach is that they are there for the children through all the stages, through all the situation that they have in their lives, no? Like all the challenge that they have, they're just there. And of course, they try as much as possible to redirect and to give advice and to, but the most important is that you as teacher to become as a point of reference for the students, to have a human connection with them, to have empathy with them, this is what you can do. And of course, it's not an easy job because we know that you have a limited time to do it. And one of the questions was about the budget. I think that, of course, in schools, you don't have so much funding and resources, and how can you apply all these recommendations without financial support? Of course, it's a challenge because we are talking what SOS Children Village presented here. This early school living program is funded mainly through their own funds. But at the same time, a lot of what you do it's about, for example, in the prevention, in the workshop, it's about doing these workshops in the schools, no? So what we often give as recommendation to the teachers when they come to our courses is to reach out to the non-profit organizations and institutions that they are in their city, in their village, in their neighborhood. That you're, as teachers, you're not alone and you're not supposed to solve this issue by themselves. So that's the whole idea of the multidisciplinary team that Monica and Elsa presented, is that what you can do as teacher is to reach out to these NGO that are maybe specialized in working with disadvantaged learners, with learners that have different type of special needs, they come from difficult backgrounds and so on, and try to make cooperation. And maybe these NGOs can apply to funds to do, for example, a prevention work program in your school, no? So that an NGO can come and do some workshops in your school, no? Mm-hmm. I think this is one of the ways that we have seen here locally that it has worked very well, because we know that in schools there's limited time, the teachers have limited time. So one of the messages of this presentation is to reinforce the community to think in a whole school approach, and that thing that is not only a school issue, it's a community challenge, no? So that it should be seen like this, like a community. That's why in their presentation they talk about the school community, no? Because it's not only the school involved, the teacher and the psychologist in the school, but there are other actors involved, like social workers, NGOs, and so on, no? I will. Do you want to add something?
No.
Yeah, for now, we will see what other messages, new messages we have. Which age students are your labs useful? What do you suggest? Primary as well as secondary students? I'm not sure for which who this question is for. Sorry.
Because we work. The program that we present here is for secondary students, because at teenage period the problems or the difficulties are increasing. But also at primary school, probably it's helpful to have a kind of program to create a community, to approach another kind of learning or an accompaniment of students. So
yeah,
the primary level can do different activities with us and workshops, but in a general way, not a specific work. That's it. It's all community is getting inside of the program.
And as Monica said, we all, in general, early school leaving percentages are higher in secondary level, but of course depends from school to school. But it's really important that even if you're a primary teacher, to start with this approach or to continue with this approach of community, involving the whole community, involving the families, involving the NGOs, then you already have the foundation that makes it easier later on in secondary level. Yeah, in our case, from our experience of all the teachers that have come to our courses, we have noticed this bit of gap between the primary and the secondary level. No, we've seen that in primary level there are often more activities more transversal activities, more extracurricular activities, more creativity, more connection, human connection, and many times it has been reported that when there's a gap when students pass to the secondary level. So I think this is also important to address, no? That especially if the students change school from primary to secondary, to take these things into account, no? And maybe we haven't discussed a bit about the families, that a really important element in this community-based approach are involving the families. And I know in SOS Children Village you have a lot of programs with families. Can you tell a bit about the prevention program with family? How do you work with the biological families of the students, of the learners that are under state protection, but also in prevention of families in vulnerable situations?
We also work with families, so we build workshops just to focusing the importance to accompany their daughters or the children to the school. So because Anka told us before, sometimes the backgrounds is really poor to accompany in a good way to the children. So we accompany parents to learn how to accompany the students, to be present in the school, because sometimes they feel like the school help us our children, so I'm not on this community, but we need it. So it's important to get involved them, just to prevent other situation that maybe at home. It's important to be there. So we also work with families just to just to improve the way to be at the school.
Can you also maybe share some of the activities that you do here in SOS Children Village in Tenerife? No, in the eco farm, what type of activities you do both with the families and with the students? No, like the
huerto.
Garden, the ecological garden.
Yeah, for example, we work with the families and children in the garden. They make activities together, and also we use all our village to work together with the children and families, just to improve the connection between them, because sometimes they have some problems between them about the emotional backgrounds also. So it's important to learn how to be together in different way that they used to be. So we use also our village to do the garden, sportive activities. Also we
do parties too.
Yeah, to cook together also.
Horse therapy.
Horse
Yeah.
therapy. Yeah.
Bioconstruction.
Construction, speech therapist, also the families are there. Psychologists, therapists, also families are part of our sessions, because it's important to be there together. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. As someone is writing in the chat that it's important to facilitate the bonding with the family, and the bond between the school community and the family, as well as the bonding between the different family members, brothers and sisters. And I know from our visits that you have the experience that when, for example, two siblings are in state protection together, they have higher chances to recover from their trauma, from their situation, because they have someone to relate to if there's brothers and sisters together, no, rather than if they are completely by themselves, no. So one of the question is if the families are open to this kind of activities.
Yes,
no?
yes. They can come with us and do activities like sport activities, parties. Yes.
I think one of the key success factors that I know you have experienced is the fact that you involve the families from the beginning, so you don't impose a certain activity on the families, but you ask them, what are you most interested in? What would you like to participate in? And I know, for example, from your day centers program, where you have different day centers in different vulnerable neighborhoods where children and youth that are in vulnerable situation can go in the afternoons, and you offer activities for them. From the visits that we did, we understood that the families who accept this collaboration and are more in contact with the school community have higher chances to that the children don't end up in a situation of early school living, or the family doesn't end up in a situation where the state has to take the children. Whereas the families that don't get involved in this kind of programs, it's a bit more difficult to help them work towards their recovery of the situation. No? And I think this is also an important aspect, no, to see how the families how to approach each family. No, we have another question, like, what if the parents and families are indifferent? How can we, the teacher, make them care? This is a challenge. Yes, this is a challenging question, of course. I know from our visits that is the same challenge, that when the families are willing to cooperate, then it's easier. I know from the presentation or the visit that we do to the day centers that one of the answers to this question was that try to find the activity where the families can relate to. So maybe if you invite them to a talk about early school living, maybe they will not come, because the families do not like to be told that they're not doing their job as parents well, no? So they have this, imagine that if you are parents of children who have already left the school or are in the risk, they have already been invited to the school to different type of talks where they're told that their children is not doing good, that they don't have good achievements, that this and this problem, no? So what we want to transmit from the approach of SOS Children Village is to think in a different way, no? That maybe if, as a psychologist, maybe having a desk in between you and the families is not helping. Maybe if you go in a garden, if you suggest them to go do a hike together, or do an excursion, or something more fun, just to know them, then they're more likely to come, no? And of course, we know it's difficult that as school teachers, you don't have so much resources and time to do it out of the classes, no? But maybe once a year, if you do a family day, funny activity in the schoolyard, where the families can bring things and do something all together.
And create activities together, the families and the teachers. Like here, we usually do, the families create the activities with us. They looking for some activities who wants to do.
Yes, one of the examples that Nelson is also talking about is the project of learning aprendizaje, ¿cómo era? El proyecto de aprendizaje de la familia. That the families choose to do a project, that the families are grouped in teams, so then they can relate different families together, and they choose a subject for the project. So they have an investigation project, learning and investigation project, where the families decide. For example, maybe one team of families decide to investigate about nutrition, another team of family decide to investigate about technology and addictions to technology things, and then they receive support in making interviews to specialists, searching in information online, and then the parents themselves present their results towards together to all the other families, no? So I know from this program that we have visited that and we talked with the families that attended, that they reported it was more effective to listen these advices or these results of the investigation from other peer families, other peer parents, rather than inviting a specialist and giving a talk about, for example, addiction of social media or nutrition and so on. No? So this is the approach of inviting the family to be active and propose topics and themes. I'm trying to read another question here from Juan, who's saying that in their primary school, projects about performing ants, chorus, drama, and dance have been a good tool to improve the motivation to come and stay at school. What is our opinion about this kind of projects, also in secondary level?
It's excellent. I really like, because as we talk, we need to connect with them, and also with secondary students. They have a new stage of life. I mean, they are discovering themselves. So the art themes about dance, drama, theater, painter, it's a good activity to do with them. Also, if the teacher are there with them to practicing together, I think it's a really good tool to improve, to connect with them.
Yeah, I think there is a stereotype that only young children can do this kind of fun activity and be a bit like allow themselves to. In the end, why don't adults or youth? Why are these kind of artistic or creative activities so popular starting secondary level and among us as adults? Because as we grow up, we get this fear of mistake in front of others, get this fear of being judged, that maybe we're not so creative, that maybe we're not so talented as others. We start to compare each other. And for example, in our courses with teachers, this is exactly the things that we try to break with, no? That if we as teachers are allowing ourselves, we are taking out our masks and put us at the level of the students and do the things together with the students, and we're not afraid to be silly or to make mistakes in front of them. I think this helps the youth also, no? I know also, like from your methodology that we also adopted in our courses, is this idea of trying to do projects and activities where you don't know more than your students, where it's also new for you, no? Because if you already know, then there's always be this kind of gap of you are the teacher who knows more and they are inferior because they know less. But if you start a completely new project that is also new for you, and that, for example, maybe with the technologies, maybe your students know even more than you, and you give them the opportunity to teach or to express themselves, no? And to try out and to promote an atmosphere that it's okay to be mistaken when we are learning, that there's no problem if we mistake, because mistakes are okay, and thanks to the mistakes we are able to improve and to learn new things. For example, in SOS Children Village, one of these activities that they do is using bioconstruction. They have a summer camp for youth that is happening right now. During 3 weeks, they set the challenge, okay, we're going to make a super adobe house together with the youth from different countries that come together in the summer camp. So imagine youth between 16 and 24 years old waking up in the summer at 7 a.m., starting from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. in order to build a house together. At the beginning, of course, maybe they are not so open or they're not so enthusiastic about it, but we have seen how effective this is, no? That in the end,
probably at the beginning they are like, no, I don't want to do it, but then they try and they prove, okay, I like it, and they continue to do it. They express themselves and they continue to do it because they like it at the end. So yeah, really special.
Yes, and by putting yourselves as teachers or as trainers at the same level as the students, you give them the possibility to express and to come with the idea and to propose their future activities. Maybe you at first you propose one activity, and then they can take the initiative. We have someone who's commenting that we need to be more flexible with schedules and subjects, don't we? Exactly. Of course, that's coming back to the initial question about what would be the ideal world in order not to have these kind of challenges, and probably one of it would be that we have a system where the schedules and the evaluation criteria and all that are a bit more flexible. And someone else also wrote that wouldn't be wonderful to be children again. And I think from our experience, this is a good approach, no? To allow ourselves as adults to let our inner children out and visible, and to be exposed, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable in front of the students, because then we teach them that it's okay to be vulnerable, and that only by accepting this vulnerability you are able to learn how to face the challenges in life, no? Because I think in the conventional system, many times as teachers try to put this image that we know and we have everything controlled and everything is okay, and this is the knowledge that I'm coming here to send you. And many times in our courses we have this discussion about, do this kind of active learning methodology work? Does it work to have a more fun-based and more game-based learning? Isn't it, many teachers ask us, yes, but then the students will lose respect from me, then what if they sabotage, and so on. And from our experience in SOS Children Village also, it's that it works. Trust, it works. Maybe not the first time that you go in a class tomorrow and you propose a completely different activity. Maybe the students will be shocked, but step by step, and try to get what they're interested in, then it works, no? Like, I think this is what we have experienced and what we want to share with you, no? So yeah, someone else is sharing that as teacher, we would dare to take challenges too and try to connect with our secondary students. We definitely encourage you to do that. And I think if there are no more questions, we would like to give you many thanks for listening to us. I will place in the chat the link where you can contact in case you want to come to one of our staff mobility courses. We do training courses, very practical, based on active learning, and very often we do 1 or even 2 visits to relevant local institutions. SOS Children Village is one of them, but we have many other collaborators. So we hope it was inspiring for you, and we keep in touch. I give the floor to Marta.
Thank you very much, Anka and Monica. And Miguel for this webinar. I think it was really useful for all the participants, because I see a lot of positive comments in the chat. So it was really inspireful and useful for our participants. And I also remind you that the recording will be available. So you'll be able also to rewatch it in case you need to refresh your memory with some part of the presentations. And yes, what can I say? Thank you very much again for accepting our invitation. So Anka, Nelson, and Michaela and Monica, was really nice to have you with us today. I wish you all a good evening and stay safe. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy summer and get your energy back for the next school year.
Bye bye.
Ciao.